Hello out there. I hope you're all staying safe and healthy in the wake of this coronavirus outbreak. I think as of the time I posted this, I've just been kind of like sealed away working here. Doing favorites. I think the last couple of days I've been taking off is since finally ventured out to get online and update you guys and upload a bunch of videos from the last project I've been wanting to do. And let's see. And it's sort of between that I've found myself updating a few things um, that I've done a few years ago under a different pen name. Let's see, where do we want to go? Yeah, shocking, I know. And I've got like completely unrelated stuff published under a pen name to keep some distance between this work and some of my more serious stuff, but it happens. Yeah. And I guess for a while now I've been wanting to sort of update book covers, but I've just like had no inspiration on what to do. Whereas with this stuff, like inspiring book covers seem to be easy to come up with. For some reason, when you're doing a more serious project, it's not so easy. Um, I do have like it's like I do have the itch to start like a more serious project outside of this name, but um, oh shoot. Why is this not suggesting? There we go. And we are 10. But it's like every now and then I get the itch to do something, but like you guys have been wonderful. Um, let me get this. Oops, I always forget to caps lock when I disappear and come back. You better not. You better not. You guys love this stuff more. Seem to love this stuff more than. Oh shoot. Okay, we're gonna have to go 3 lines on this one. Then my serious stuff gets loved by everybody else. So I'm just like not that inspired to take a break and do something else that's not going to be quite as loved. doesn't mean that I can't update covers and promo cards and all that stuff. So it's when I get home from being out, I've just been finding myself doing a little bit of work to sort of better promote some older stuff. Let's see. This has been going surprisingly slow. Even regardless, because these are taking. Oh, okay, this one's not going to take long, but it's sort of the lighting setup in this project makes these panels slower to render. So it seems like I think the interior shots where I avoid the windows, I tend to get in about 5 or 6 minutes. When I get those shots that look at the windows, let me see if I can show you one. I'm probably sure you can see, but when I do these layered shots with the windows like this one here, these can take anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes just for the interior layer. And then the flip side is the exterior city. Let's see. No. Oh my god, and Windows Photo Viewer here is going to drag just like. See, so when I do an exterior shot like this doesn't take that long to render. This might only take a couple of minutes to render, whereas these interior, not this one, but oh my god. Yeah, and oh my god, Windows. Jeez. The interior shots looking at the windows without the city background. Here we are. See, this is all, everything behind the window is transparent, so I can slip in the city. But this shot here would have taken anywhere from like 10 to 15 minutes to render because of all the reflections and whatnot. I think that's what slows it down. But when I do shots like these without the windows, they don't take that long. But when it takes that time, it's just like you go do something else, and then it takes you forever to come back to it. Or eventually, or it's like the waiting, just, if you sit here and wait for it, like I'm doing now, it just wears on you. And eventually you got to take a break when you're halfway through a page, where something like Shrimp of the House, where the images in rendering in OpenGL, the images can come off in, maybe a minute. I'll have the image rendered before I'm even done setting up the text that goes with it. It's you can crank up, you can crank up the pages, and there's just nothing interrupting your workflow usually. Oh god, we're pushing 7 minutes now. Okay, forget 5 minutes on these interior scenes. Although it could be because, although I do have a piece of the window here, and because that's going to get cut off anyway, I'm not going to worry about the transparency because it's not going to make it into the page. Oh god, this still has a long way to go. I think I And I posted on my Patreon page. I actually had to switch it because I accidentally like set it for patrons only when I meant it as more of a general announcement. I had to fix that, but well, I'm sort of anxious. I am anxious to do the last part of the Iron Brotherhood series, like where whereas like I needed a break after doing three of the parts before going on to Rusty and Elliot's story. I'm kind of anxious to do the next part, but oh shoot, I'm thinking as I post on 34. I think as I posted them, see that transparency is gone. I'm kind of thinking since with the coronavirus outbreak and people going to be out of work, maybe a lot of you might be not sure if you've got a paycheck coming up. I've been thinking what I might do for April is to do more of these one part 24-page stories to crank out, to just have like the material cranked out faster. So you might end up seeing two or three more stories just in April rather than like maybe three of the parts from one story. And then possibly hitting the United story from Iron Brotherhood in work on it in May. But oh, I don't know. So I was gonna do the shot on him like that, but she's gonna say something while this is going on, so I think I want it like this. But the other thing that's factoring into this too is I'm kind of getting in the what is going on there? I'm kind of getting in my I'm kind of um, gearing up to do the story I'm calling Burn Pit. I keep talking about it in these videos. It's sort of like an idea. It's sort of an idea I've had forever, but there's been like a number of things that have been like just sort of holding me back from change parent. Um, I think no. Okay, that didn't work. Okay. Um, There we go. Let's see. And I need this light. Unparent. Okay, there. That I can manipulate that better. Take the camera off because I like that shot, and I want the light sort of between the hand and the chest. It's it's basically what I'm doing here is creating this glowing green effect. That indicates that she's transforming him. Um, it's the green is from this geometry shell. Um, Let me turn off. I can show you what the geometry shell does since I'm here, and I'll come back to the thought on burn pit in a little while. Don't worry. So, like, so what you can do is these geometry shells. Let's see. We go create. No, I want to go. Let's click on Ted for a moment. We go create new geometry shell. We just go accept, and it creates that. And then what I can do is basically create a texture over him that's sort of the exact shape of his body. The geometry shell is just ever so slightly bigger so that it's on the outside of the skin. Um, the particular texture I have for the body hair is itself a geometry shell. It what it does is basically uses a transparency map to blank out everything else but what you see. But we go to the let's click this on for a second. If I take the geometry shell, um, we'll just change the diffuse color to make it interesting. If I want to make it red, there's a red geometry shell. I can do stuff like that without actually changing his texture. So you'll see the body hair is still there. The eyes. Um, let's change that back for a moment. Um, or no, actually, hold on. This is what you can do with this geometry shell. Let's go down here to opacity strength. It's by default at 50. If I set it to 100, it's now a solid shape. So um, let's see. I can kind of zero out individual parts of his body. So let me see. What do we want to do? Just go blah, blah, blah. So we take all this stuff. If I set the opacity to 0, whoops, face is going to be 0, 2. You kind of create this. You can create like a little bodysuit. Or if I want to take the let me see. Let's take hip, legs, and where is foot? Foot. If I blank out the legs, then I've got this shirt, so to speak. It's like an easy, or I can take off. What do I take off? Arms. Let's take off arms, and we make it. Oh, Jesus Christ. Forearm too. And we can make like a really quick, cheesy tank top. Or if I don't like it, a skin tight tank top at that too. Or I can go in here and add in a let's see, we go under here. if we had a fabric texture to make it look a little more shirt-like. Yeah, I don't know. Let's pick something. See, I'm making this too difficult. Um, why don't we just use jean? We'll set this to white. Or not. Oh, I see what happened. Set it to white. Um, Browse. Okay, I've got to have everything selected. So let's try the jean thing again. See, so we can set, and then just we'll just increase tiles. 10. Okay, yeah, 10. That looks a little more, so that's like a very quick and cheesy outfit if you wanted to. But that's geometry shell. That's what I do is I just use the geometry shell and I put I think I used a preset somewhere. I've got saved somewhere in my content. The idea is that the presets are what makes it look white like this in the viewport, but it'll look green in the once it renders, it'll render this green, and then the light I put in the palm gives it more of the glowy effect. I think it's actually better. Come see, it comes across a little better here. It kind of gives it this bright glowy effect. Um, and I think let's give some movement so this doesn't look like we just didn't change anything. Let's see what do we got. I wonder if I can get away with twisting just a little so I get a little bit of her face without it looking like she's not looking at him. Okay, we'll call this 84. But yeah, back to Burned Pit, it is an idea that's kind of growing in my mind. It's sort of an idea that I'm increasingly like wanting to do now for some reason. I think a lot of it's just, I guess as I've said before, a lot of the ideas have kind of come together that haven't before. You are going to love this. Well, let's condense that just a little. Okay. Oops. So it's once now that I think the story has a little bit more focus than it ever had before in my head, and I think now that I've got kind of some sets and props that I didn't have before that would kind of accentuate the story in a way that I would have liked to have but couldn't have before. I'm kind of getting really, and I guess too, I've been acquiring a lot more skins for characters so that so I can try and get away from the same look. Don't get me wrong, I am amused by the idea that it's not that I've got a lack of diversity in these stories, but the fact that everybody just looks the same. It's not even that everybody's the same skin color. It's like they're all carbon copies of each other. We're in a universe of clones here. But I've been acquiring skins. I think I have been like somehow acquiring more and more um, skins for characters, so I can do some different looks. And I think that too is what one of the things that have been like hanging me up with Burn Pit is just what I want to do with the characters. Just sort of like wasn't inspiring me with the skins I had at the time at the time I conceived of it and started playing around with character creation. Where select shrink. Oops, cut. What am I doing? So it's so kind of putting on sort of if I put off Iron Brotherhood United for another month, it sort of pushes Burn Pit off to this summer. I don't know if that's going to drive me nuts, or if it's going to be one of those things where the idea kind of leaves me and something else takes over at the time I get ready to pick it up. But yeah, see, so once we hit render, here's what I'm talking about. It goes from this to this. So you get the green texture here, and the white glowy is from that light. And see, the light itself is green. It's the light itself is the same color as the shell. So you get so it ends up like kicking off this green light onto her, so that you get the idea that his whole body is lighting up. And I have to admit, when I brought the story into the bedroom here from the balcony, I ended up forgetting to remove her bikini and putting on some lingerie to indicate more time has passed. So what I'm just going to go in my head is that this is taking place. So in my head canon, they just walked in from the balcony, so she's still wearing the bikini from the from the little exterior. She hasn't had time to change yet. I didn't when I started this off. I didn't even tell you what page we're working on here. This is page 16, by the way. Let's save this as page 16. And because when we post this to YouTube, we don't want we don't want them to get upset over any potential nudity. This page is going to be clean. I think it'll be page 17 where like she strips off her clothes and they start playing around again. So this page, they've just got to have some harmless fun. Open as layers. Let's see, scale. My mind just wandered there for a second. Okay, that works. And then we'll go here. Oops. Let's cut that before I go on and do something else. Bring you up just a little bit. Actually, I could have put it there, couldn't I? But nah, we're going to keep it up here. Just create that over. There we go. And now what we're going to do, after going through all that work to add the body shell and realigning both it and the light, we're going to unparent this and put both of them back into the clothes group to make it invisible. And then we take Ted, come here, find the scale. It's sort of what I did to make this easy is I opened up parameter settings before I started. I sort of figured out the value, how small as a percentage of his size I wanted him to end up as, and then sort of divided the difference between that and 1 by 3 so that I could, and then set that as my nudge so that when I hit negative, so that like every time when I want him to get smaller, I can hit negative and it'll automatically, the next step will automatically be where I want him to be. Actually, you know what? Let's. Yeah. Um, I think. Okay, we'll just get the arm out of the way. We'll put the breast with the poking out nipple in it, just to tease everybody. What are we using? I think he's using fear. We'll take fear off and. I don't think. Well, it's good. Um, what else do we want to do here? Da, 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 da. And the arms. Da, 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 da. Five? Okay. Let's have him stuttering here, so you. And let's make that a different line, right? Okay. Oops, let's copy, edit, paste as, because I don't have my fingers near Control C right now, so I don't feel like raising my hand to push the buttons. And no, it's not. It's not as dirty as you think. My hand's just sort of resting at my side. Just lazily sitting there. Just too lazy to pick it up and put it on the keyboard. Okay. Oh my god. Layer to image size. And you know, let's paste it as a layer. Um, okay. For some reason that didn't look right for a second, but okay. And let's go save. But yeah, I kind of like half intro to thought there and never really got to expressing it, but like kind of getting out and sort of getting properly online, checking out like Amazon's rankings. It's it's kind of funny to see somebody else um, selling muscle growth comics on Amazon and like charting the top charts right now in the graphic novel sports category. And you'll forgive me, I should have done my homework before coming on because I'm horrible with names. So I couldn't for the life of me tell you who the creator is, but it's the guy that puts out the what is it called? Strong Girls, the female muscle growth. He's got like his female muscle growth comics. I I think the older series is called Strong Girls or something, but he's putting out a new series right now. And at the time, you might have seen where I posted it on Twitter. Um, when I was checking yesterday, and when I say yesterday, today here is the 25th of March, Wednesday. So this would have been on Tuesday, the 24th. When I was checking, like the second book he's got in his new series was number one in the sports graphic novel category, and the first book in the series was number two. And I see he's got like the same problem I've suffered from, where like the second book is a new release, and it did not get, and Amazon did not give it the number one new release orange banner. And this is something I've been seeing with my last few releases, where ever since I started like plopping my work into the subcategories in the graphic novel in the larger graphic novel category, like every book has been a number one new release thanks to you guys. And up until recently, every book has just automatically gotten the little orange banner indicating it is a number one new release. But the last two or three books, it's I think more and more people are discovering the categories, and there's like more. Oh, what do they do? There's been sort of more serious competition in the categories, which isn't a bad thing. But it just means now I end up like my last few releases have been sort of competing for that number one new release spot, and the last few books have also like not been getting the little orange banner. Oh my god, here I'm like not paying attention scale. There we go. That's one big nipple. It's been a bit of a frustration. Like, your book is a number one new release. Through a good chunk of the month, it's a new release, and Amazon isn't giving it the. And I think and I see the same thing is happening with this guy with this, with his female. Like, the fans out there are supporting his work, like you guys support mine. And I should say, and I say that, but I know for a fact a number of you are, a number of you have checked out his work because his work comes up on the also bots on some of my titles. So I know we share a lot of the same fans, and it just feeds into this idea that because we're not publishing through Comixology and handing over Amazon, or letting Amazon double dip into the royalties because Amazon owns Comixology, that the idea is lately they're sort of increasingly, I don't know if punish is the right word, but it's sort of they're trying to push us out in order to kind of promote those titles published through Comixology, that they're double dipping on the royalty. Let's see. So this is weird. This is one of those. This right here is like one of those things where you sort of try and where like you can't see it because I don't have the camera on my way, but it's one of those things like on this side of the screen, I'm kind of modeling personally what I'm trying to do because my instinct, it's like what I want to do is to have her pick holding him in one of her hands So the instinct is to always is like visually one of the hands. I automatically go to one of the hands visually, and then I have to stop and think like, well, would she really be holding him in that hand? Because half the time, even if it's an object, I end up like realizing once I set the pose that like, oh god, she wouldn't be holding that in her left hand or her right hand or whatever. So it's like this is one of those times where I have to pretend I'm holding it to see what's natural. And oddly enough, like my instinct visually, because the way this is set up visually, my instinct is to um, put him in her right hand, which I think, which I'm thinking would be right if she's right-handed, but I'm right-handed, and when I'm sitting here trying to imagine this myself, it feels almost naturally that I would be using my left hand, even though I'm right-handed. Does that like seem weird to any of you other right-handed people out there? It's I've never been sort of identified as ambidextrous, but I find myself like increasingly noticing that I tend to favor my left hand in a lot of situations. And I don't know if that's natural because it frees up my right hand for something else. So you do it without thinking, or if I really am like ambidextrous to some extent. And it always makes me second guess when I have characters holding things. So, if you do like any meal scene and I take the time to put silverware in people's hands, it's like, it's like, would a right-handed person really be holding the fork in that hand and the knife in this hand? Now what we'll do is we sort of bend the legs so they don't look like so he doesn't look like he's still standing on the floor. I think after I just went and positioned her hand, that's not a problem. I can just redo this. Okay. And now what I've got to do is let's collapse the hand because I've got to parent him to the hand. So that I can now like move her around. I want to make it look like she's picking him up. And that means the legs have to come back a little bit. We'll zoom out, make this sort of a wider shot. Try and give it a little scale. But, going back to going back to my competitor on Amazon, like you would think, being competitors, like I'd be sort of glad, but I'm not. You know, I, I'm rooting for him, honestly. It kind of makes me angry actually that he's not like he's getting screwed like I am. And if I were, I know I've already like sent off an angry email to Amazon complaining. I think 2 books ago. If I were him, I'd be sending off an angry one. But it's like it's one of those things that just like put me in a mood to go through the bestseller list in both the sports category and the everyday life category and start reporting every book that doesn't belong. And if you go check out the bestseller lists, there are a lot of books in the everyday life category more than the sports category that just are not comics. It's like authors getting their prose books listed in the comics category, trying to get exposure where it's not warranted. And it comes at the expense of um, comic creators who need that exposure, who deserve that exposure, frankly, because that's the category they belong in. Um, okay, let's take this text bubble. New layer. I think this is going to be another over her head. Let's see. I need you. Perfect. Um, I think I'm going to make this 2. There we go. So, I have Iron Brotherhood Rusty and Elliot goes live on Amazon on the 29th, I think, 4 days from now. And when it goes live, Control V, Mr. Female Muscle Growth comic creator is still going to have his latest title in the new release. So I'm going to be going directly head. So I'll be like going directly head to head with him for that for that number one new release spot. That's going to be interesting. Like I said, I'm not rooting against him. I'm not upset at it. I find it interesting. I find it fascinating. It's going to be interesting. There's going to be like two of us dominating the bestseller list in the sports graphic novel category. Suck it, children book authors trying to slip into the graphic novel categories. And when I was reporting books yesterday, I have to say the children's books, which don't belong either, I actually didn't report. I know Amazon went when Amazon tried to pull my titles from those categories about a year ago. No, it was last summer, not quite a year ago, but when Amazon tried to pull my titles from the graphic novel categories, um, they also pulled every children's book that had been slipped into those categories. And I didn't notice it at first. I think it took me a few days to really notice it because, like, there's one children's book creator who like pumps all of his stuff into the graphic novels category, and like for the longest time, like he's been one of my competitors. So it's been like kind of fun watching our books go head to head. And then like all of a sudden I realized his books were just missing from the category. Like, wow, one of my competitors is just gone from this category. But he's been like, as he's been putting more stuff out, he's like still slipping his books in, and the children's books, I guess even though Amazon indicated children's books don't belong, those I didn't report as being inappropriate to the category. Whoops, undo, edit, cut. Right? Okay. Because I think I've slipped a couple of titles into a couple of categories on a very loose interpretation of the category. So I sort of afford them the same loose interpretation. Well, they are pictures. It is artwork. Um, it's really only the text only books that I went and reported. Well, that and the pornographic titles. What am I doing? Those I report just because they banned Transforming Tyler when I tried to put that one for sale. And actually, now that like I think at one point last year I reported the other pornographic titles they've got in the category, and they've decided to leave them up. And it's like even to this day, I feel like I should go back and fight their decision to ban Transforming Tyler on that grounds. But Um, File save. But their decision to ban Transforming Tyler led me to start the Patreon page, and I think it's the decision to um, give patrons access to the stories before they go live on Amazon is, has ended up contributing into you guys sort of driving the revenue to Patreon instead of Amazon, where on Patreon I get a larger chunk of your pledge, as opposed to when you buy a book on Amazon and Amazon takes the larger chunk, takes most of that price point. Or if you're a or if you read it through Kindle Unlimited, they give me relatively nothing for each book you read. It's sort of between a combination of how they count pages and how little they pay per page. So it's like, to me, having transforming Tyler banned on Amazon is sort of a good thing for me and a bad thing for them. So, I feel like, as much as I want to argue it just out of principle, let's see. As much as I want to argue it out of principle, they've done me a favor and at their own expense. Oh, let's see. Okay, that's not quite. As much as I don't want to go, as much as I like not having to deal with 10 to 15-minute render times, I'm going to go back to the window anyway. Because we're going to play with the stuffed animals for a little bit. I think this is where. Kind of take a bit of this shock off. Looks good, right? Let's go 75, 87A. And I think I'm going to cut here because here's sort of what I'm talking about, and I need a quick little break myself. And this is probably going to take forever to render anyway, so we're going to cut here and come back when I've got the composited picture. And hopefully, unlike with the first video, if I did with this story, if I put it up, hopefully I don't find out I forgot to record when the next part comes up. Okay, so it only took a hair over 8 minutes for the first layer, and I went ahead and rendered the second layer so we wouldn't have to sit here and wait. So I'm going to save that. And I've got the first one already opened here in GIMP. We're going to bring in the second one, put it behind, and then, as always, we'll just do Gaussian blur at the default setting, and then export that. As A, and go enter, export. And while I was taking the little break there, I went ahead and did the homework that I didn't bother doing before starting this. And I grabbed my phone and pulled up the Amazon bestseller list to see what this is, and open as layers. And the author I've been talking about is Mike Linkster, and the titles he's got out now is called Strength Conspiracy. He's got number 1 and 2 are out, number 2 being the most recent. And as I'm looking, as I've got the bestseller list here, almost a full day after seeing it yesterday, Strength Conspiracy number 2 is still number 1 in the sports category, and Strength Conspiracy number 1 is still number 2 in the sports category. So, congratulations to Mike Linkster for those numbers, for those rankings. And since I'm on sort of the mobile site, I don't see whether or not it's got the banner yet. But the newer one, number 2, is sitting at a sales rank of 63,095 overall in the store. So he's sold a few copies in the last few days. I know what it takes to get to that ranking. Um, suck it, Transformers, in the number 3 spot. Which actually, now that I think about it, Transformers shouldn't be in the sports category because it's not a sports book. Okay, let's cut this one here. So if you all want to share your disdain to Amazon for trying to push out legitimate sports books like Strength Conspiracy and the Iron Brotherhood, which focus on weightlifting and muscle building, by pumping the category full of non-sports titles like Transformers, you can all go onto Amazon, pull up the product page for the book, and kind of lower on the listing site, there's a place where you can report the book. And one of the reasons is for inappropriate category. So you don't have to slam the book. So it's not like you have to slam the book, but if you go on there, I encourage all of you to go on there and voice your disdain by reporting it for being an inappropriate category. It so that books like Strength Conspiracy can get better exposure. more exposure. Maybe Strong Girls, his other series, Strong Girls, will place higher on the list because of sports fans like you. Um, I'm sitting here talking and I'm not even doing anything on here. Okay, so let's rectify that a bit. Let's take City off. I gotta get them out. By reporting it for being it won't be a commentary on the book itself, but you'll just be telling Amazon that it doesn't belong in the category. And maybe if you all gang up on it, they'll get the message. I'm gonna take. Let's unparent him. Actually, I'm gonna straighten out the X and Z rotation. Um, and let's flatten the feet. This is only gonna be temporary because once I get him on the table, where's the table? There we go. I'm manipulating the feet anyway. Oh, okay. Let's see. Actually, let's now that I've got him on the table, let's turn him around. Let's see. I think his hand is not. Like I said, it'll be interesting in 4 more days when I'm going head to head. I think the two of us will have that chart dominated. Maybe Jim Cornette presents Behind the Curtain will be knocked out of the top five. Oh shoot! And because of this door, I'm gonna have to layer this one. Oh well, I don't care. There we go. But again, like at least that book belongs in the category. At least that's a sports title. Like, geez, not like I. I think is Corbin's Basement still on that damn list? How nice of Amazon to consider that a graphic novel after it's been reported. Um, they must be funneling money to Amazon through advertising or something like that. I'm gonna get her out of the way. I don't really need her in this scene, in this picture, so I'm just gonna make her go away. Is that a okay? Well, if that's only gonna take 8 minutes, then I can go ahead and let's see. What do I do? You, we can come over here and edit. Whoops. Paste as new layer. Maybe by then at least one of us will get the stupid orange banner instead of them just denying it to both of us. Um, I think I can stretch this out a little. There we go. But it's funny. Kind of going back to one of my earlier rants here about possibly just focusing on the Short Tales series for the next month or so. Um, uh-oh, what is going on? Oh, okay. God, I started off there and like I have no idea what I was doing. Stop that. Ugh. Okay, edit, cut. Oh my god, it's gonna take me 8 minutes to get back to figuring out what I'm supposed to be doing here. But going back to the short tales, like honestly, like I don't think I have any idea what I'd actually do for a story if I decide to do issue 4 and 5, because what I'm planning to do with this story is I think because of how the poll on Patreon played out, I'm doing two versions of this story so that this version is where is where she makes him small but keeps him trim and fit, and then the second will be the alternate version where she makes him plump like a stuffed animal, plump and furry like a stuffed animal. It wasn't exactly an even poll, but I think enough of you chose the runner-up option that I don't want to discount it. So so it's like, I know I said let you guys decide the poll. So this is where I'm going to give all of you what you want. You're all going to get, if you like him like this, then this is the story for you. And I'm going to label this one as Short Tales number 2. And if you liked the other version of him where he's plump and a little hairier, then you'll get that story, and that'll be Short Tales number 3, Teddy Bear, the alternate take. Although I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to title the two of them because I can't exactly call them both Teddy Bear. So it's going to be like Teddy Bear and Teddy Bear Take Two, or in an alternate universe or something. select shrink, select invert, and then let's go back to this one before we cut. And I think, given my CPU seems to have shut up, I think that's done rendering. Oh wow, that only took 4.5 minutes. What the? Wow. What the heck was going on there? Wow, that expression came out better than I thought. Kind of doing it from a wide angle without really zooming in to look at it closely. I wasn't entirely sure how that expression looked. The door. The door is going to come off this time, and then furniture and structure. And then B. Render. And if that only took 4.5 minutes for the first part, then this should probably only take a minute. Let's save and then open. That one. And as much fun as this has been talking with you guys here, I do have to say the next page, I'm not quite sure yet, but the next page might get a little graphic. So I think unfortunately I'm not going to make a video for the next page. 47 seconds. This will probably take like a minute and a quarter. Unfortunately. Yeah, because otherwise I can't put it up on YouTube. Nope, we just passed a minute and a quarter, but I was close. Maybe it'll be a minute and a half. That was the problem I had with a new sort of diet. And I never did post the one video I made for that one. Oops, we were right where we needed to be. What just happened? Oh, I forgot to save that. Oh, okay. And there's B. There. Okay. See, I didn't even. I could have just left. I could have just done that as one shot and left the city normally. You wouldn't have even noticed it's blurred. It's not. It wouldn't have been. You wouldn't have even noticed it wasn't blurred. But that's the attention to detail I like to give you. So we will save that file. Export as. Let's take the A off and just make that 88. Why do I feel like something just went horribly wrong there? But while it's a little disappointing that the competition gets a little harder as more people discover these categories, I do have to say it's actually a good thing to have more content available on Amazon that's similar to this, like Mike Linkster's Strength Conspiracy. And I guess that's, and that's kind of partly why I partly um, partly why I'm doing these videos is to kind of show you that, like, if you're not, if you kind of see these odd and kind of see people who put together sort of these 3D comics, and you're thinking to yourself, like, that would be cool, but I don't know. Part of me kind of wants to show how easy it actually is. If you just put in a little bit of time. And I mean, again, you don't have to be, you don't have to be as focused on detail like I am at times. Um, Edit. I mean, after all, art is, a style. There's no right or wrong way to go about it. Just do it, you know. Um, but part of it's like to show those of you who maybe have been, would like to, that you can do it, or even for like some of you, like if some of you are already creating your own titles, I would encourage you to look at publishing on Amazon, even if it's just to gain exposure. Um, Down, but it's the one of the things to consider with Amazon though is you do have to keep it somewhat family friendly. They won't tell you what goes too far as sex and what they will allow. They basically run it on a case by case basis, meaning they can discriminate against creators however they want, which I think, which I'm positive is what happened with Transforming Tyler, is that because that one was a gay story, because it was man on man sex instead of man on woman, like you see in a couple of the titles that are in the top 100, or that you saw that, when the brief sex scenes I had in My Twin No More, or the female nudity in the original Shrimp of the House, where they didn't have a problem when it was straight sex, but once you sort of go into, I have a feeling that once I decided to do a story featuring gay sex, that went too far for them. I saved that right. Image, file export. Oops, because the thing is, like, they'll allow um prose books all day, just like on just like you go to Goodreads or Smashwords, not Goodreads, but if you decide to publish through Smashwords, or what's the other one, Draft to Digital, or you go directly with like Barnes and Nobles or Apple or whoever, like they'll have no problem with prose books. But it's sort of, once you get into images, that's when they start, that's when it becomes more acceptable to discriminate. So you've got LGBT categories on Amazon because it's all text. They don't have to actually see it, so to quote unquote see it. Whereas like when you put it on the page, when you put it visually, you see it. It's a little more pronounced. So it's, that's where they get to discriminate, because then they can say, well, it's pornographic. We don't allow pornographic, but there's a bunch of French titles in the list. that feature content very similar to Transforming Tyler. But the difference is it's like 50 guys banging one girl, and apparently that's okay. you know, it's like, it's a major gangbang is okay. Penis is okay if they're having sex with the girl, but if it's like guy on guy, that's where it's that's where they don't like it. So if you've got sex, it's just probably best to avoid Amazon. But if you sort of do stuff that kind of pushes the envelope without going full blown sexual, I would definitely suggest just throwing it up on Amazon. I mean, if nobody buys it, then that's no different than not putting it up on Amazon. If somebody decides to buy it on Amazon, that's a sale you otherwise wouldn't have made. That's money that you're making from work that you might have just dismissed. You better not do what I think you're going to do. You are going to love this. You made me so small. I made you perfect. Now you're just the right size. You're as small as a teddy bear is supposed to be. The other thing to, before I sign off here, the other thing to consider with Amazon, the one downside is if you decide to enroll it in under the Kindle Unlimited program, they they require exclusivity. So if you enroll it in Kindle Unlimited, then you have to pull it from everywhere else. So it's like you can't have it on your DeviantArt page or your Patreon page or wherever. That's why when I post the stories early to you guys on Patreon, I've got to pull it once it goes live on Amazon. But if you just put it for sale and don't enroll it in the Kindle Unlimited program, then you can go ahead and keep it, wherever else you've already got it now. You just can't get the people who paid $9.99 a month to, subscribe to reading free books, which isn't much of a loss because, the way um, they pay out isn't very beneficial to image books like comics and graphic novels anyway. So, if you're, if you can generate revenue on DeviantArt or Patreon, then you're probably better off. But while I'm rambling here and sort of ranting and venting, I'll kind of get back to that idea that, it's, I want to encourage, whoops, I don't want to do that right now. I might as well save that while I'm kind of trying to form this final thought. But, I sort of want to encourage, um, whoever's, or, any of you who are already creating or thinking of creating to, expand to Amazon and, gain more exposure to sort of these niches. You know, I don't know, but it's like a lot of, I guess a lot of in the indie book industry, a lot of authors, are just out there to sabotage their fellow indies and discourage their fellow and destroy their competition. And I'm kind of the other way, where the competition is good, even if like the more that's out there, the harder it is to break out. But I think in the grand scheme of things, it's having more is a good thing, not having less. So I'll leave you to that, and I'll see you next time.